that SLA help bring to light into that process. And we want to anchor it in a real way. So I think we all come from that same spirit, though, right? And that's regardless of the lands we come on or the knowledge we share. We are all coming back to the fact that something is broken in the systems that we've designed on how we habitate, cohabitate, live, and if we can, as you and I chatted so very briefly in the early days, if we can bring that to the structural elements of what we design on how people live, we'll be a lot better for it. So thank you, Clarence, for that. We're going to move to more of the formal part, but I wanted to highlight one other thing. This was a letter that Taryn wrote as part of, is Taryn a co-op student with the Future Cities? Is she an undergraduate? Okay, so this is an undergraduate student that has sort of been at the periphery of the Build Now process. You know, she's getting information relayed to her. She's listening to minutes. You know, maybe some other visuals, but frankly, has sort of been observing and in a secondary sort of way. And she, I don't know if Leah asked her or she wrote, but she sort of documented her thoughts on this process. And I just want to read that. And I know some of you already have. It's something I've read every day since she sent it. And I get a little emotional sometimes, but it's important that we anchor what we're doing and why we're doing it. As a young person, the housing system feels like a wall. Home ownership is presented to my generation as something we might reach if we are patient enough, disciplined enough, and willing to sacrifice enough. But that framing ignores reality. Many of us are doing exactly what we're told to do, and the goalposts keep moving away. At some point, it becomes clear that the problem is not individual effort, it is the system. Many of us will not be able to afford a home without parental assistance, not to mention the stigma around renting, seen as a failure. There seems to be no way to win. You know, it's funny she starts with that level of emotion, right? There is a deep despair and lack of hope that is now in the generation that has to come after us in terms of their future. That's really what we're talking about. Phil and I talked over lunch about that same thing. When you lose that despair for your future, so many bad things happen. What makes Build Now resonate with me is that it does not pretend otherwise. It starts from a simple truth that young people already understand. If land, fees, delays, and speculation are baked into the housing production, affordability will never materialize, no matter how many programs are layered on top. Build Now does not try to soften the edges of a broken system. It changes the system itself. From a youth perspective, the most exhausting part of the housing conversation is being asked to normalize instability. I mean, pretty profound words from a young person. Just think about what she's saying. Long-term renting, living at home well into adulthood, delaying major life decisions, and relying on family wealth are treated as unavoidable realities. Build Now pushes back against that. It treats stable home ownership as essential infrastructure, not as a privilege reserved for those with intergenerational advantage. That distinction matters deeply to a generation already carrying financial, emotional, and social uncertainty. I am also drawn to Build Now because it rejects speculation in a way that feels honest. Many young people are uncomfortable with a housing system that rewards extraction while eroding community stability. Build Now's emphasis on permanent affordability, nonprofit stewardship, and transparent cost structures aligns far more closely with how my generation thinks about fairness, stability, and public responsibility. It offers a model where housing serves people first, not asset accumulation. I think so often we misjudge the intelligence that exists within our young people. They know what they're facing. They're not coming at this blind. And we need to fix this. Speed is another reason this model matters. Delays are not neutral. Every year of inaction pushes affordability further out of reach for young people, newcomers, and workers who do not have time or wealth on their side. Build Now recognizes that time itself is an equity issue. Faster delivery is not about cutting corners. It's about acknowledging who pays the price when the system moves slowly. What ultimately makes Build Now compelling is that it restores a sense of possibility. I mean, if I could just boil it right to that, Jose, That's what we're trying to do. My generation has grown up watching affordability strategies expire, pilot projects stall, and political commitments dissolve. Build Now's insistence on permanent affordability and shared accountability feels different. It suggests that public institutions can still be trusted to deliver long-term outcomes if they are willing to operate with urgency, transparency, and courage. For young people, this is not about idealism. It is about whether stability is still attainable. Like, how sad is that, actually, when you just listen to that? Build Now does not solve everything, but it offers something rare, a credible path that aligns with how housing is built with the realities that we are actually living. That is why it matters and why it deserves to be taken seriously. Build Now also works because it does not rely on the comforting myth that actors in the housing system will do the right thing simply because it is needed. People respond to incentives. Developers protect margin, institutions avoid risk, and governments delay hard decisions when the consequences are abstract or invisible. That is not moral failure, it's predictable behavior. What has failed is a system that allows delay, inaction, and cost escalation to carry no real consequences. Build Now introduces consequences. When money, land, funding, approvals, and public credibility are on the line, behavior changes. Decisions move faster, excuses disappear, and coordination replaces deflection. Public scrutiny makes this unavoidable. Media attention and visible timelines turn quiet foot dragging into reputational risk. In a system where affordability has been endlessly discussed but rarely delivered, accountability only emerges when inaction becomes more costly than action. Build Now understands this, and it should design for it rather than pretending otherwise. Pretty powerful words. So that's our goal today. We're going to transition from why we're doing this and purpose, which to Rasmus, our discussions have always been anchored in values first. Design must follow values. I think we've done a pretty good job of anchoring values. We won't go any further on that. But we're on a mission, and that mission just isn't the affordability of a house. That mission is the affordability of life and the immersion of what a great life means. That's what we're doing today. And now we get to do some math to make it a little bit lighter. The other thing that we had talked about was trying to bring forward a little bit of the overarching pro forma of the project. It's very hard to design in a vacuum. It's hard to design where you don't understand the totality of the financial magnitude. So I'm going to take just a quick overview. We won't go too deep into it, but it'll give you a sense of what the overall project pro forma is. You'll start to see your elements and pieces, but also the things that then, really jump off the page, which is going to come down to the constructability and associated costs of some of the topologies and the overall site that we're talking about. Through a city partnership and a federal government partnership, tough decisions were made on land. And so you can see land and things like that are in this case, gifted by the city of Waterloo. So thank you so much, Michelle. Insurance, property taxes, when we finally assume the land, these things have relevancy. The insurance would be more builder's risk insurance. And then we get into site servicing. We're estimating site servicing around 8 million. We're still working with our MT partners to get through design and get through estimates. And then you can see an offset for the half funding that was committed to the city of Waterloo, who in turn committed a portion of that half funding in addition to the land for our cause. So big contributions, both from the federal government and the city of Waterloo, to help us get to where we are. Architectural design, structural, mechanical, cost consulting, civil, hydro, geotech and hydrogy, environmental, appraisal research, planning, interior design, landscape architecture, survey, other studies, etc. So we're all participating in this realm of the overall project, and that's sort of relative magnitude for a lot of us in the room. Design matters. You have to invest money, and we are. And I think a lot of you are investing time that goes beyond conventional compensation, frankly, and I'm so appreciative of that. But we had to build a great design team to tackle a very big problem. Then we come into sales commissions, marketing, Tarion, which is an in and out, we recovered back, servicing people after, and a little bit of public relations and government relations. It takes another apparatus then to promote what we're doing and then to engage with the audience we so hope to attract in a project like this. And that's sort of the magnitude of those. That'll involve quite a number of people that we work with to do that. We still have conventional things that come in from a city point of view. We pay building permit fees and other application fees. That's what that line is. We've got parkland obligations. In this case, we hope to work with the city to reinvest those. So generally speaking, if you do a subdivision, you give a portion of the land to the city, it becomes a city park. When you do infills, you generally don't give a city park and you pay cash in lieu of parkland. We're going to do something a little different. We're talking about maybe the public ground here being neighborhood agency. And so how do we register public easements that allow those in the community to utilize what we're doing, not just within our immediate community, but the entire city. And so there's ways that we can look to repurpose some of these funds with city permission that allow sort of all of the city to experience the benefits of the neighborhood. Development charges, we still have to pay for schools. And so while the DCs are exempt, which means our city and regional development charges are exempt, we still make contributions to the school boards. And then we've carried some development charges for the commercial spaces, depending if they're communal and amenity, they won't attract DCs, and some of them will be conventional commercial and will attract development charges. And that's sort of some of the levies that are involved there. The magnitude of that waiver on the city and regional side, sorry, I shouldn't say waiver, exemption, that's probably in the magnitude of between 40 and 50,000 a unit of costs that would normally be in the model that aren't here. Land might be somewhere between 40 and 100,000 a unit that aren't in the model here. So our model still is a math model to extract costs out of that system to try to push the price of homes lower. Then we get into some of the financing fees. We obviously have to raise capital to pull us off. Costs money to make money. And so the banks will lend about 15,000 per unit as sort of an average, 15 to 20, depending on if you're building apartments, less financing cost if you're building some of the typologies that we're exploring, because they can be built faster and delivered quicker. And obviously that cuts down on the financing costs. So that's what goes in there. Legal, accounting, and then we have management fees. And so in this case, this is repurposing development profit. So working for effectively a fee structure as opposed to a fee structure and a development return. In this case, that's 4%. A portion of that goes to Habitat and Build Now. A portion of it is to compensate for the development expertise that would deliver the project. And then one of the breakout groups today is to talk about centralized parking. We have to balance density and we have to park people, and we generally can't dig big holes because they cost a lot of money to park people. And so we have this balance that one of the groups will explore today, which is how do we feel about that? Should you have a garage? Should you park in front of your place? Should you pay a lot extra for underground? Should you even have a car? Or should you have maybe a parking structure that serves the neighborhood? So a bunch of people will tackle that today, but there's material costs there. And then welcome to the crux of it. I mean, I think what I can show you is this comes down to what we design, the fundamental costs of delivering housing. We've done a good job of eliminating elements, but now we have to build things. And so you can see the magnitude of construction costs. This proxy is about $260 a foot. Okay, so $260 a foot. You have to, that has to be in the design conversation, and we're having great conversations with the team right now with lots of wonderful family-based designs that can be built in this cost reality. To put that in perspective, if you build a high-rise regionally, you're probably in the $450 to $500 a foot range. And so we're talking about half the cost of construction for high-rise. And so that dictates density on the site. That starts to inform what it is we can build. We don't want to build high dog crates. I love that they're calling them that. Who is going to buy one of those in Toronto now with a ton of inventory when they call them dog crates? But anyways, we're looking at family-based housing. We're looking at mid-rise housing. Right? And so we have to give space to families, but then we have to balance the topologies that give that space and mirror that with the associated construction costs of delivering them. It's a great puzzle, but thanks to the design team, I think we've got some really cool solutions today. And then a general contingency. So here's what that means. If you do a project of this scope, we're getting in and around just under $400,000 on an average cost. Pretty staggering when those are 3-bedroom units. Just to give you a sense of how you might disperse that, and it's arbitrary right now, but the goal of this project is, can we deliver family-based 3-bedroom plus housing under $400,000? The math says we can. That would be a great mountain to climb, because now you're getting back to a 5% down payment. That's $15,000. If you can save $15,000, you can get into home ownership. The cost to carry that mortgage is less than the associated rent for a 2-bedroom high-rise condo. Arguably the same as a 1-bedroom, pretty close. Okay, so now all of a sudden you've gone back almost 20 years you've gone back in the ability to own a home. And that home does not have to be a 1-bedroom or a small 2-bedroom. That home can be a 3-bedroom, proper space, planned for your family, raise your family, immersed in a great neighborhood, connected to nature. Now we're talking. So that's a bit of the math, just because we hadn't done that yet. And I think what I learned is designing in that vacuum was hard. So exposing the realities of that cost is important for us all to just be mindful of today.
Thank you so much for the transparency, because it really has motivated the team to work together and to try to meet all of these goalposts. So thank you for that.
Good. And I think that the beauty of Build Now is the aligned process of transparency. Greed, you're right. And boy, has it gone too far, right? And so in this process, we're trying to get that out of the equation. And that's not to say everyone works for free. That's not the answer to greed. But the answer to greed is, let's find out where that excess line is, and let's bring it back to the real intention of what we're doing. And that's still market-based delivery in construction, market-based delivery in design, market-based delivery in development management services, market-based delivery in financing and bank fees. No one's changing the apparatus that's here, but everyone's going at it with a sense of participation and not greed. And, that I think is going to actually be that, together with the type of neighborhood that we come up with and are coming up with, are the two kind of miraculous things that Build Now is trying to do. So, okay, I think I'm done. Perfect.
Damn. What I mean, can I have them out? I'll just take them out, actually, I think so. Okay. So, I mean, I was not expecting to be so emotional influenced before talking, but yesterday I was having dinner with the chief development planner from Waterfront Toronto, because we are doing a project called Quayside, which is very famous in Toronto because it was where Sidewalk Labs, almost as famous developer as HIP, tried to do a project, actually with good intentions, but without full transparency. And now that project has changed completely, because it's turned into affordable housing and purpose-built rental, and they can make the business case to work, but they're not willing to share the budget. So it's interesting to come from a meeting with those otherwise lovely developers, if some of them are in the crowd, but I know they're not. But it's and that's how it is. It's fair. They're playing the game, but maybe the game should change. So yeah, man, I just salute. Thanks for the transparency. I think that's the only way we can change things. So I think that's really beautiful and valuable. So yeah, this is just a short intro of where we are with the landscape and urban real and the Homes for Life, as we have announced it. I thought I could scroll on this one. I cannot. I can click.
Yep.
Like this. So we try to make a short presentation of where we are, because it takes a long time to do something short. And right now we are going to tell you about the values, and in a way where we try to showcase the values. How would that actually look like? We heard a lot about greed and acknowledgement of other creatures than us. So we want to start with nature on this side. And we visited, you have all seen it. And a good way to start with acknowledging a site is to not focus on the site, but actually what's around the site. To focus on the ecosystem that surrounds it and figure out the role of that site in sense of how can that contribute to something beyond the site boundary, and how can it be influence of something that started outside of the site boundary, because it's kind of our purpose, right, to think about contribution that is bigger than that. If we were very greedy, we would just jam in as many towers as possible and get a highest final number in Scott's Excel spread. That's how development normally works. But let's not do that here, and that's not what we want. We want to be part of the surroundings with our project approach. And I'm still not used to this mouse, so sorry for that. So I never heard the story with the grass. I never heard the full story of the 7 generations. I quickly learned when I came here about the 7 generations ahead of you, but it took me a long time to understand that I'm in a moment of time where I need to make sure I took the learning from the 7 generations before me as well. And our site was untouched landscape for a long time. So there's something about acknowledging the land that was there. But then a little miracle happened on our side, because there was a brownfield for some infrastructure work that had nothing to do with any of our values. And they left the site with a hole and some machine trails, and it turned into a beautiful habitat. So that little magic moment is also part of our heritage. And I feel that this diagram that we discussed recently in the studio, of course, it points forward. What is then next to come? But it's just, it's kind of amazing that that little excavation in Habitat and Welcome so much life unintentionally. And I'm still going the wrong way. I'm apologizing for that. But it means that if we then look inside the site boundary, we have the woodlot that is having its fingers right on the edge. We have some pioneer, because it's actually not that. How long ago was it that this did it? Is it? Yeah. So a nature magic moment happened and created what we have in 10 years. That's stunning. That's really amazing. So we have those things because of that. And here are the community that already live on the site. So if we start doing our project, we would like to include them and think about making sure that they can coexist. Because if we are very greedy, they will not be able to live there when we are done. And that's new, and it's a different way of thinking. I was coming directly today from a big workshop with the city of Toronto, because we are trying to help them with the maintenance plan for all of the trees in Toronto. And our biggest accomplishment would be if we can make a maintenance plan for the animals and not just for the Homo sapiens, because there are safety issues, but it just brought me this mind thinking that we are planning everything for the two-legged, was that the word? But we are forgetting the other one. So here are the existing inhabitants, and one of the really important thing is to understand that they are already using the site in a specific way, because there's a wetland up here, a smaller one, and they need a corridor, and up here you have the woodlot. So there are already a road system. There's already a small place where they hang out. They have a whole community there. So if we use that as a starting point, and you can see there's the flow of water, there's the green and the blue network. It's a very, very different starting point to do a master plan. Actually, you cannot say master plan anymore either. It's a framework plan, because it's also a word that we are not allowed to say, at least in many places. But I just want to dwell with this one, because we have done so many diagrams of this type in projects and never ever really managed to get it implemented and be such a big constraint for the future development, because it's actually oh. So if you then take that into consideration, and I will speed up now because of the 20 minutes I was given, sorry for that, but it's like starting with the site, right? Acknowledging what we have. Before anything, we are talking values, and the site is determining. And we really try to say that what we are doing is a movement, but it's a movement that is an approach and a method. It's not a movement that would look the same everywhere. That's part of it. We want to be part of the things that are in value, in the connections to the site. And because of all of that, and because Scott needs a black number and not a red one in that Excel spread, we all need that number. We probably need to have some density and figure out how to get it to work when we place the buildings. The business case is essential for us, and we need that to work more than ever. But we also need the other values, right? We can't solve the crisis that we are in right now with just, as a bed in a room. I mean, we need to flip it and actually create even more attractive homes and cultivate that belonging so people will never move. We have to connect all of these values of people commuting and surrounding things, and then again we call it the layer of life and the growing community, and that's where we are hoping. And it's an approach, it's some values, and it's also some restrictions that we need to follow to accomplish this, and that's gonna be easier than doing these illustrator diagrams when we get into the nitty-gritty. We have introduced 3 things, and it's a bit strange because normally when you see these things, you see a plan, and then you see all of the buildings, and then you see everything in beautiful renders, but you are not seeing that here. You're seeing examples of what that value-based design approach that we are doing here would look like in between the buildings. What would that facilitate of your daily life? And we call it biocorridors. There's an urban spine and there's a social spine. It's the facilities that you get, and that biocorridor, as we call it, and we have something we call creekways, is the living arteries, and they are living in many ways. They are designed for the perspective of a turtle, because otherwise it doesn't work. And then there are also pathways for the human beings who live there. Of course, it has to be joyful for all life, but it's a very different approach, and we can't let regular infrastructure block it, and you will see that in our design. So the biocorridor, which was that northern wetland linked to the woodlot down to the lake, needs to be a passage. It's the same way that, there are manuals for the road because the cars need to go from A to B. You can read 5 books this thick about the temperature of tarmac and how to mix with a certain granularity of gravel, but there's no books about how a turtle can go from one place to another in the same policy level as there's books about windows, how much light you get in. But I mean, it's weird. There are descriptions of all of the other things that could also facilitate life in cities. But here's one of them: is a biocorridor. We can't follow any policies. It's just values that we all hopefully agree on. And the reason why we are making it here as a raised pad doesn't need to be there is to tell that this is not designed for people. They are the second users. The first user of this are the animals themselves. There are other places where we can walk freely around, but in the biocorridor, there's another hierarchy in that development, and that's important, especially along the woodlot, but also to make sure that water and animals have a flow. And it could look something like that. It will still be accessible. I mean, just imagine that you go to see your neighbor and you walk there. You will be a very happy person when you go over for a cup of coffee because you just got embraced by nature. So we also believe that it's a very important part of your daily commute. And then this one, which was a promise we insisted on in our first pitch for this project, was that, okay, if this site is so valuable, we need to make sure there's an infrastructure for the animals. So, of course, the bioswales and the corridors for the turtles are going under the highway in the best manner, so they don't feel interrupted because they don't know how to cross for cars. They haven't learned that. Nobody taught them how to do that. So we need to make a system. The same goes here. So this is a place where water, where plantings, and also people can gather, but it's on the premises of the biodiversity. It's on the premises of all living creatures, and it will be an amenity for the people that live there. It would lower the temperature. It will do the clean air. It will harvest the water that the mother sky brings to us, and feed the nature with it all the way down to the lake. So it seems very beautiful, and all in reality, this system already exists on the site. This is actually just intimidating the system that already works, that was created in such a short time. So this is how it will look and feel like, and this is why we're doing it. It's because it's the right thing, it's the right values, but it's also because it's an amenity for the people that would live there. So we need these obstacles of places where we cannot place our buildings. We, of course, also need people to have a bike, to get a new fridge delivered to their home, a couch. We need people to come home, elderly who have brought their groceries. So, of course, there will be paved areas. There will be places where, EVA, emergency vehicle access is the meaning of that one. There are things, fire trucks, that needs to be there. But what we try to do is to limit that amount and always have green spaces. We think there shouldn't be any streets without a green space. And then the creekways could be more public, more urban, more paved. So there are these places. And again, we also need to talk about what we believe in terms of critical mass, because that missing middle, that is the developers thing, or the city, what we need. But what does it mean for the F&B, for the vibe there, right? Instead of pretending that it will just be 100 kilometers of active frontage and just super busy, the viability of the retail also needs to work. So we don't know yet. I think it can work without towers, because it would be attraction for people that live around the neighborhood. But let's have those discussions. We for sure know that it's needed, and let's see. And then the streets, we want the streets to perform like urban spaces. Again, you can see there is a car. We know that we need that access. We want others to visit and drop off and get a cup of coffee, but maybe most of the facades is an entrance to where people live and where they go in and out every day. We don't know, and that's something we will develop together. So these are examples. Don't take it, and I know we've even said how many meters and all, but it's because we will need to follow a lot of standards when we get into roads. Roads are some of the most restricted things to design in a master plan. So you need to already now have an idea of those things. But it could be some of them that are more paved, more even with a bicycle lane, some crossings, some retail. But again, where is that? How does it work? How we have a whole chapter. We have to move inside the buildings before we can finish outside, right? So there's this synergy that we are looking to, but we want it to feel different. We want it to be a place where nature has a space anywhere outside of the buildings. And here are a principal section of some of the secondary roads where we even think you can share with cars and bikes. But again, you can see we are jamming entries and corridors everywhere because that's the DNA of the site, and we won't sacrifice that. And we also want to not have pipes for the water. The water is just, again, I remember the first time I worked with the Turo indigenous architects, and I talked about stormwater management, and Mickey was saying, "What the hell are you talking about? It's just water that falls from the sky. What's stormwater management about?" Right? So I think it's so clear and simple that we need to adapt to that system that already exists on the site. And then there are the two-legged Homo sapiens that also needs some space. So they are going to walk around and have a nice life. And we want it to be a place where it is really like a shared living room. I think because of that identity there will be a very strong feeling of community. We've discussed how if you even apply or commit, we would like people to commit out of their own free will, but maybe we could facilitate that and make sure, because it actually, when you start to commit, it actually makes you feel better. It actually makes value. And sometimes we just forgot because we take a lot of things for granted. So that sharing living room feeling would be lovely to have. And not have it everywhere. So you can also see here, we acknowledge that everything won't be equally busy. There will be a place that is social spine, and that would be linked. Could also be where everybody parks their car, so you know you are seeing your neighbors often when you do that. There are many things that we could link to the social spine, a community space, shopping, and so on. But it's a space that is really active. It's a space where you can hang and sit and enjoy and talk to your neighbors. There will be retail, obviously, and there will be some of it that could be plaza. But again, it's all places that feels like urban spaces. It feels like a modern hamlet, so to speak, but it is mid-rise. We know there will be, and it will be modern development, but it's shared. Everything, the most democratic place in the city is actually outside. So that's what we want to facilitate. We had a lot of ideas about how that social spine could connect with the wetland. Our biologist, we have internal biologist, and Nico, he was very much against not having a buffer to the wetlands. And again, remembering the turtle. So now there is a buffer to the wetland because we thought it looked cool. So you have to admit your mistakes with a boardwalk, and there was also cost, by the way. But this is the way that we could make one special place where you could have some sort of interaction with the wetland and engage, but it's not everywhere, and it needs to be carefully curated and make sure that it's designed so it's pleasant, because it is an asset, an amazing asset that was created by machinery for a road, but it needs to be still the home for the turtle. And I think that's actually it. Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
The structure for today, for those that didn't see the agenda, is some brief presentations to get your mind going, and then breakout groups that follow certain elements of the sites.
Get your feedback. And
Take
yeah.
note of that.
Yeah, so we're not taking questions and comments yet
No.
because we're gonna have a
Yeah.
big chunk of time where we're gonna be able to really delve into things. So we're just gonna flow right into now typologies, and then we'll move into the breakout groups. I can take it away.
Take it away.
So as.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry
for that.
Yeah.
Is this actually working?
You want to sit here?
And it's gonna, here, I'm gonna talk from back there and I'll talk louder, right?
It doesn't matter. No, we have more than one. Where's,
Okay,
we have
Put that
the
on the computer.
all right,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. Go.
yeah, then I'll share it.
Yep.
So taking off from the site, we're looking at the land, we've understood what the site has, what we need to accomplish or accommodate there. The guiding principles that led us through that exploration will also lead us through the built forms on the site. And as we look at the things that we want to interact with on the site, we're looking at some of these things like edges shaped by use. What are we doing? What are these structures? How are they interacting with the site, the nature, the public roads, the private roads or secondary roads? Framed and found spaces, creating little spaces along the sides of these public areas where you have a little bit more privacy, or places between the buildings that are going to become filled with nature or beautiful views, and where you're going to socialize with your neighbors. and the proximity of buildings. How close are they on the site? Immersion, how far does nature reach into and around these buildings that we put on the site? The permeability, if you put a big block building on the site, you can't see through it, you can't move through it, you don't know what's on the other side of it. Can we create spaces and views through that site so you know that you can walk into that courtyard or that area that's beyond, or into the woodlot that you see in the distance? Active ground floors and free streets. We're going to incorporate commercial space and free streets in this site. Where is that? Where does it make sense to have that? Can these typologies accommodate it on the ground floor? What typologies can accommodate it? Where does it make sense as in relationship to the right-of-way streets, to the secondary streets? Where do you want to get people to gather? Microclimates. Where are we placing these buildings in relationship to the trees, in relationship to each other, so that they're creating areas of shade, gathering sun where you need it? Where can they join together and create a more urban, dense environment? Does that make sense along the right-of-way, like a more public street? Is it creating separation between some of those? Do you link them together? What typologies can link together? Not all of them can. Some of them make sense on their own, and we want to create a lot of diversity. Interfaces for all life, that's creating those corridors for the biodiversity, for the turtles, for places, for all creatures, four-legged, two-legged, birds that fly, ensuring that we've accommodated them all, and creating lots of visual diversity and movement of facades. We're looking at them, we've looked at the big picture. Now we're looking inside these spaces. Where are these people going to live? These homes for life. What are we creating? Are we creating a home that you can actually move into, grow with your family, see yourself living 10 years down the road? And those things are what are going to create that, what's the word that our students said, that sustainability, not sustainability. It's where you can see yourself with longevity. Yeah, longevity. You can see yourself being there for a very long time.
But I think also what's important that I've been thinking is we
Yeah.
don't work in silos.
Yeah,
So the architecture does the architecture,
yeah,
landscaper does the landscaping, the designer, interior designer does the interiors. But really, we're affected by everything. So all of these different guiding principles are what is informing how we move from the more macro
yeah,
into the micro. But we live in all of them. We live outside of our homes and we
Yeah.
live within our homes. But more often than not, we're always worried about noise, but noise is part of life. So
Yeah.
what do? We create these environments that kind of enclose us and we forget about what lies beyond.
Yeah.
What we're doing here is we're opening it up. We're saying we have these environments that we
Mhm.
live in, but we're connected to what we see beyond. Whether we're physically a part of it or whether we're visually a part of it, we're a part of it.
Yeah.
And the noise is life itself. It's part of breathing, it's part of existing, it's part of being.
Can you do it?
And so we want to take that and we want to take everything that's informing how we feel on the outside
Yeah.
and then how we bring it into the inside
Right.
in very.
Yeah.
So,
Huge. Yeah.
so when we look at planning principles, although we don't want to be as structured, it's very important as we are when we look at the framework plan. There is a structure in which we.
Framework plan.
Yeah.
Your fans?
She caught, yeah, she picked it up really quick. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm noting some of those new terminologies, yeah. And it's very important that we too respect the way we live. We sleep, we eat, we bathe, right?
Socialized.
And we play.
Mhm.
And we do all of this in our environment. And in order to really keep them focused, we have to understand the grid that informs the costs. We have to work within certain structures and also be able to live within them. We have to respect the zones in which we do all the different functions. that we spoke about.
Yeah.
How do we access them? Not only
Yeah.
how we access them internally, but how do we access our world externally? How do we continue to be a part of it? How do we access light? We have a lot of artificial light
Yeah.
that we choose at night, but how can we interface that light with how we allow nature to come into our home? Right? Our sight lines always being connected, not only to our interior environment, but how that interior environment connects us to the exterior. So these are our planning principles to ensure that there's always connectivity.
Yes,
Continue.
you can. Yeah. So we rethink.
So when we think about floor plans, more often than not, we're not sensitive. If you, for some of you, we were called about, form and function. And we replaced function with fiction. And we said the fiction really comes from the character. People that inhabit these spaces. How do they move through them? But we forgot about them. We forgot about the sight lines in the different zones that they live. What is it that they're experiencing? How do these zones come together? How do they interface with each other? Okay. It started to become just building blocks. Let's just put them in there. Let's not really think about how we experience them. So the plan that you see over to your left is a plan that just has been randomly done. All the functions are there, but it's patchwork. You don't feel a sense of cohesiveness. It feels confusing. It feels almost it feels almost suffocating, if you will, right? So if you look even at the buildability portion of it, if I can just make my
Yeah.
muted front here.
Yeah.
The sight lines as you walk into the foyer is your mechanical closet. Isn't that wonderful? It's a beautiful experience if you walk into the home. Then you start to look at how all these walls are aligning. They aren't. Right? And they're full of doors everywhere, beds that don't even fit in the rooms, closets that are given far more importance than the actual physical space that people live, right? So you start to look at this and you think there's something seriously wrong here, because at the end of the day, this is where we kind of re-energize. This is where we come back to who we are. But yet it's very hard to come back to who we are when we're not connected. This is very much about being disconnected. So now we go over here and we think, okay, the most important thing is to come into something that feels beautiful. So you come in, you have an opportunity of either a beautiful piece of art, a place where you can put your keys. The function, the fictive person is here now narrating as we walk through these spaces. You have two different zones. You have your private zone and you have your public zone. Okay, so this is your social zone right here. As you move through it, you have an area that you cook, an area that you basically play or entertain, and then you have an area where you bathe and you sleep. And there's a tremendous amount of storage that we all need, because that's called livability. But at the same time, there's a connection to what lies beyond, whether you're in the bedroom, whether you're in your social area, you're connected at all times.
Thanks, Ash.
So how does it manifest itself? If we start to look at what makes us happy, when you're in an environment that inspires you, you immediately feel alive. So inspiring one's living environment is so important. When we look at environments like this, we feel that we are in environments that are thoughtful. They think of how we move through them, how we interact with them, no differently than how we interact with the outdoors, right? So although this elevation looks beautiful, but it has so many different functions. It has the function of eating, the function of relaxing, it has storage, it has access to the outdoors. All of it just in that one elevation speaks to everything that we call connectivity. As we move further, we have the craftsmanship that's so important. We live with craftsmanship. We love to use our hands, right? We love to be around things that are carefully thought through. And so you start to look at the thoughtfulness of the space and how that thoughtfulness is carried through every zone that we work with, right? Kitchens, instead of just having doors, they're drawers so that you don't have to bend down all the time and see what's in behind. It's more accessible. It's easier to live with. So all of these small details are what make one happy and feel that things have been carefully thought through. That type of thinking is what we're bringing to the homes.
The toolkit, right? So when we're thinking, we're showing you millwork and details and whatnot, but it's us thinking about when we think about Scott's Proforma and we know what we need to hit target-wise there, it also dictated a size that we need to work with, right? So in order to make that work, we're looking at a 3-bedroom unit that needs to be 1,050 square feet and a 2-bed unit that needs to be 900. Yeah, thanks. So as we do that, I mean, ignore the architecture here. This is obviously just massing, but we're looking from the inside out. We're looking at different floor plates or different units. Let's talk about a 3-bedroom unit. A 3-bedroom unit that different forms, different shapes, different modules. What do those look like as we start to put them together into a typology, and how do those typologies start to interact with each other? Therefore, obviously looking towards density and looking at, again, a low rise here. You're seeing a lot of low rise, one mid rise. But this is the toolkit that we're starting to build based on these floor plans that we've created. So we've kind of set aside the architecture for the time being, looking at the inside and how people live within those spaces only. And what we're going to get to is a toolkit we can put onto this, the framework plan. So one of these turned into some 3-bed units that arrange themselves in a tripod. We're also looking at structure as we do this because they need to be constructible and affordable, or fit within our pro forma. And at a 3-story, this is going to give you 9 units, and the floor plate there is a 3-bedroom unit in all wings. This typology also has the opportunity to allow for CRU or free streets at grade. One of those units could become commercial space. Creates interesting views. We're looking at sight lines there too, actually, because you're looking at maybe the private side, the sleeping side, facing a courtyard at the rear, potentially the living side facing a public street or secondary street. It creates interesting opportunities for private spaces or small shared spaces within those courtyards. We're looking at this tripod. That particular grid works for either a CLT or precast construction type. Keep going, Ash. There's a lot of these, so we'll go through it fairly quickly, but Anna, you can talk to what this turned into. Yeah. Yeah.
Those clusters are not just informed by, we need to work within these grids, although that's very much within the back of our minds, because constructability is critical, which in turn translates to affordability.
Yeah.
So all of this said, we still want to maintain the design principles that we spoke of earlier.
5 minutes.
If you look at this place, when we're designing something, the first question we ask ourselves is, would we want to live here?
Mm-hmm.
If the answer to that is no, darn.
So do I.
If the answer to that is yes, then we're on to something. So the first thing that we all look for is a sense of arrival. So as you come through here, more often than not, the foyer is forgotten. You almost land right into your living or dining area. But a foyer is a transition between what lies in the bigger world that you're experiencing, coming into your personal world, and the foyer allows you that opportunity to just transition into it.
Mm-hmm.
As we look at what we need, our climates are 4 seasons, right? We need a place to put our coats. If we have children, if we have strollers and what have you, a place to put that. Powder rooms nearby, not only for yourself, but also your guests. As you transition into your space, once again, you have your social area, then you have your cook and dine area. Once again, we've been very sensitive in putting, the sleep area on the other section, all of which are carefully thought through So that as people move into their homes and they experience their homes, there's thoughtfulness. Okay, there's creativity. And we're very proud of this because one of the things that we've been able to achieve here in a relatively small square footage, this is only 2,500 square feet. You have a 3-bed with 2.5, is it two baths? I mean, that's pretty amazing when you think of that. That's a lot of programming, and yet you don't feel that there's any clutter or that spaces are too small or suffocated, right? You're very much connected everywhere in terms of how you experience the world beyond the place you live. So this will now inform the skin. So as we're
Yeah.
now building what we call the glove on the hand, we start to see where we want these sight lines that will allow us to look beyond. And that's what we're doing here.
Okay, but
We're-
as we move through the rest of the toolkit, thank you, Anna, for the explanation on this one. Because you guys are gonna have a breakout group where you'll
Yeah.
be able to elaborate. Maybe we'll just whiz
Well,
through.
yeah,
some
we're gonna
of
go
the Toolkit and just highlight.
Keep in mind, these are in progress, right? We're having the opportunity here to weigh in and feedback and let us evolve these into things that we think are actually going to really, really work well. Oh yeah. Yeah, so we haven't got a floor plan, a layout in this one that we've finalized or are happy with yet, but this particular typology actually can be a smaller unit. This little, or a larger combined scenario there. It's a 3-bed at grade, single, and then there's a 2-story stack on above that. This typology is interesting. It's a 2-bed mix, 2 and 3-bed mix, but it can be individual. It's got a scissor stair in there, or it can be combined the way you're seeing it there. So it offers a lot of opportunity in siting. That's a close-up of that one, which we'll delve into later. Then we've got another one we're exploring where we've got an exterior corridor and 2 stairs, because vertical circulations become really important in these, and how do we make that happen in an economical way? So this typology has an exterior corridor and can be combined together, which is quite interesting. Again, 3 beds that you're seeing there. And that typology is actually based on the old idea of like a little wartime bungalow, 3-bed house, raise your family in it, all the things that you need to be in there. And that's what it ended up with. 3-story, that's another different form. So all of these, they're similar. They're all accomplishing the same things within the layouts, all different forms, different stacks, different abilities to combine or not. Here we've got vertical circulation between these two. Here you've got an internalized stair and an external stair. Again, 3-bed that it can, and if we add an elevator to that one, it can rise up to 6 stories. We got any more? Yeah, LR4, another 3-bed centralized stair, 2 fire-rated scissor stair there. And that will eventually create our toolkit of various typologies that we'll place on the site and eventually develop the architecture and the
Yeah.
That- yeah.
Is we're trying to animate.
Yeah.
The more, let's say, social space.
Yeah.
Which is your outdoor space. And we're showing that instead of turning your backs to those social spaces, we're actually turning the homes into them. So that you're very much part of it. You're active, you're seeing activity in the street. All of that becomes really important. You can start to see the different topologies from,
Yeah.
your stacks or towns or, mid-rise, et cetera. They now start to build and inform the more performative part of the architecture.
Yeah. Okay, Ash.
Okay, and part of that toolkit is also our parking. So where are they housed? So Scott touched on it earlier. We are gonna have surface parking across the site, but rather than dig expensive holes and put parking underneath each one of these buildings, there will be a need for a independent structured parking component. So Whether that is your conventional structured parking, that's sole purpose, or perhaps it's something different. This creates an opportunity to rethink the structured parking that, you know, we've come to terms with to date. So potentially instead, this is an actual hub. So it's a hub for activity. It's a hub for multimodal transit. If you look at this precedent here, the images along the side, there's ways that we can use vegetation and multisensory performative facades, like Anna talked about, to activate those facades. We can also activate the ground plane by wrapping community amenity opportunities around. So you can see we've done a sloped ramp outside of the parking plates themselves. So the plates themselves can be flat and then therefore multi-purpose, flexible use space for potentially markets on the weekend. And then that also gives us the head height at grade to actually put program on the ground floor and activate that surrounding area. So this could be central to the site rather than periphery and, you know, hidden in the landscape. We could celebrate this, and perhaps this actually interfaces with a public plaza, and it provides things like communal mail depot and food trucks and, you know, markets on weekends, like I mentioned, or a walking track and community garden on the rooftop. There's a lot of opportunities here. Birdhouses. This is a little birdie behind me. And then we've also shown in the top right of the image that we can potentially screen the parking with residential. So this is actually half of the LR1 typology, where you can have, rather than a 3-bedroom at grade, we've done commercial, and then there would be entrances to a 2-story residential unit. That's a 3-bedroom unit above that. So this really would be buzzing with activity is the idea.
Oh, I don't know what happened there.
Go. Just some precedent imagery here, some examples, you know, around the world of rethinking the idea of the parking structure just alongside our plans. If you wanted to dig into the efficiencies, the ramping, how the numbers shake out. But in this example, we have 311 cars that we're able to park. And then that just shows potentially the idea of the running track on the roof, maybe a lookout. So if this does have a proximity to the wetland, maybe the stair rises to the rooftop. And then there's opportunity for additional programming, but also awareness of your surroundings. And again, another opportunity for a connection with
For learning.
immersion with nature. Yeah. So this is our site plan to date. So alongside, you can see the building typologies in the form of the toolkit that we just went through, and then our site that contains the existing conditions and all the constraints that we've identified with our various consultants to date. So the idea is moving forward that we're going to work with the passages and naturalized corridors that SLA has identified as priority, and we're going to find a way to jigsaw puzzle all of this within that and hit our density targets. So we do have our work cut out for us. These are just some quick shots at back in December. We had done, based on a now out of date toolkit, some initial explorations, integrating awareness of, you know, the bio corridors, the movement and flows of water, the to scale typologies to get a sense of how this could shake out. Another alternative option. But these are the kinds of explorations that we're about to embark on or to continue exploring. And that just leads us or segues us into the next part of the workshop today. So you've heard enough from us. So now we're going to break out into 4 groups. So on your name tags, everyone, there's a little happy face, and that corresponds to the group that you're going to be working with today. So group 1, purple, is Big Moves in Circulation Network in the wine room with Rasmus. So you can head there. Green is dining table at one end, and we're going to do programming with Scott. Group 3, you get to stick around the living room with me and talk about structured parking. And group 4 is the typologies and unit design with Anna and Laura Lee, and you guys are going to be in the dining table as well. So we're going to take about 30 minutes. We're going to have some discussion, then we're going to come back for another 30-minute communal discussion and share our findings. So also think about who from your team you're going to elect as your representative, and it shouldn't be a team lead that's going to relay the outcomes of your discussion to everybody. Okay? High five. Oh, thanks.
Well, they
Oh, last night, and it was 5 this morning. Yeah. Purple,
Yes. I was really hoping it was.
were you? No.
Thank you.
Hello, group.
We are.
Do it. Let's go on.
Okay. I just want to connect with. Okay, so Mike, so this is when you can join the link that Paul sent you, and because you're going to be part of the group that's discussing programming. And Melissa, I'm really hoping, so you're part of our group, Structured Parking, because I'm really hoping, right, that you can help us out with activation strategies and what you envision. Like we have some precedents here that I printed. Right, like your example here. I don't know, maybe something like this if it's adjacent to Plaza. So I just want to make sure you can hear us. You're muted, so I can't hear you.
I'm no longer muted,
Okay, okay.
but yeah, I see your screen.
You can, okay. That's not what I want you to see. I'm gonna put up some parking stuff.
And nice.
Oh, there's you.
20,000.
Anything ready with you guys? About the idea of trans hub?
Did anything resonate about something?
Yeah, about the idea of a transit hub versus a standalone parking structure.
I liked it. I think there's a lot of benefits to it. It saves a lot of space where you're now looking vertically as opposed to horizontally. So it creates more usable space for amenities, landscaping, the five corridor stuff, buildings. So yeah, it resonated well to me.
I think it becomes a sellable feature. Like this, if you're thinking of a marketing side, we can, we're talking about speeds of dialogue where. So prices, price, the price. Like we're trying to make this better, this price.
Hold this so Melissa can.
Oh, sorry. Hi, Melissa. So we've been talking in our meetings, our weekly meetings about prices come down in our marketplace. So price alone is not as attractive as it was when we first started this discussion. Having said that, making it different and making unique is going to be the differentiating factor. And if there's a 2 or a 3 at the front of the $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, I think they can get the cheaper version. But I think when you have something like this and it's embedded in the sale and part of the community is going to be a much more attractive feature. So when they talk, when someone says to them, I don't have a parking spot in front of my unit, they're going to say, who cares? Look what I have. So I think we have to spin it that way. And I also believe that this is something that the community would invest in. This is investable. This is not a university, like everyone's laughing at the hospital, rebuild a parking structure. Like, don't just, or if you can find some sucker to build it for you, do it. But this is, you could there's sponsorship, there's activity, there's opportunities to bring this, to make you kind of want to park there, which is kind of weird. And I don't think anyone's ever thought of parking that way before. I'm a sales guy, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a place where like it's an opportunity because people will potentially go here every day, maybe multiple times. And it's a potential opportunity for people to meet a neighbor. You know, you might not spend an extended period of time here, but you're going to cross paths with people quite a lot. And maybe it is somewhere that you do spend a lot of time.
I think of the process of groceries, the convenience. And I think that I look at this and I think of central parking. And I think that the creation of community, and you can't overthink this stuff, in my opinion, is like groceries are a thing. But the thought of seeing one of your neighbors with someone who's carrying 4 bags, someone will say, can I help you? Because they're going the same place. And I think that this facilitates things. That's this kind of the law of unintended consequences. I think is going to flourish here, and community is going to be created. And it sounds so silly, but it might just be carrying groceries.
Yeah.
Which is something that, was it ever planned? No, but will it happen? Absolutely it will.
Yeah. Okay, I want to turn it over to Melissa. Melissa, do you have anything that you would like to share about maybe your experiences or maybe opinion?
Yeah. I think from the beginning, we've been talking about those. Yeah, there's definitely an opportunity to having the parking space further away. The experience from my home it's not just the parking lot. I think we need to consider also the experience from my home. And if there's an opportunity in sharing the load of the grocery bags, you see also, like, I think it's like I keep on coming back to that wonderful system of trolleys that could make it fun and exciting to share. When we worked during the pandemic, we presented our giant parasols. Can you hear me okay, by the way? I hear some noise, but...
Yeah, it's because the other breakout groups are kind of in the space. But we can hear
We can hear you.
Sometimes it takes a bit of brain space just to cancel it out, but that's good. We've worked on these giant parasols. Maybe I can share that were connectors. It was made for like those typical North American long, boring sidewalks. And we put giant parasols on rails just to bring, it's not that they were fast. It's not even that they were necessarily efficient because they were just going on, one way or the other, but they were shareable. And they were playful. They were bringing delight to your journey because of the sensation of gliding on giant parasols to work. And I think if we can bring both making it easy to share, make it fun and delightful in a way that can evolve with the year and the seasons because if we think of when those remote parkings will be more problematic, might be in the winter. So how can we also alleviate that weight? And I think whenever we're traveling and we go to the beach, there's always these wonderful trolley systems that just make it exciting for the kids, for the adults to use them. And I hope that they make it in the final micro plan.
Okay.
Did you
So
see?
yeah, interesting to think about what's the journey to the parking structure. And yeah, how can that be shared and delightful as well as when you're at the destination itself?
Let's be honest, this week it sucked. I don't care where you're parking. We have horrendous. You can be
True.
led by clowns,
Actually,
or it doesn't matter. It's still gonna suck.
Yeah.
Not
Okay,
having to
so-
to shuffle snow out to get your car out of the snowbank
Yeah,
might
doesn't
be
hurt.
actually a great
Yeah.
advantage.
Totally. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to ask you guys, in terms of like, where do you think, it sounds like there's like a kind of mutual buy-in about this being more than just a standalone parking structure. But where do you think on the site it makes most sense for this thing to be situated? In relation to the wetland, above or below the right of way? Like, should it be central? But the problem with, you know, maybe one of the options, if I just put it back up on the screen here. This is what I was kind of grappling with doing initial sketches. So this image on the left. So if the transit hub is central, as a hub usually is, and it has this sort of, in the peachy color, a connection to a plaza or gathering space, and it's on real estate adjacent the wetland, like that's prime real estate. So now you can't put residential units there. And you know, is that like, there's positives and negatives about this. The other thing I do just want to mention too is the bus stop. We just met with the GRT and region last week, and they said they would entertain the idea of a bus stop at the midpoint
Inside or outside?
outside the site on universities,
Not inside.
not in the
I've
site.
never seen you
They
come.
wouldn't, no. But that means like, if this is gonna be a transit hub, does it make sense to have proximity to the bus stop, the nearest bus stop? And maybe that be factored into our decision. Cause it's a big footprint, like when you look at the plan, right? It takes up a lot of space, so we need to be really thoughtful about where it goes. Like the alternate is, maybe it goes along the periphery, maybe adjacent. Okay, you said no. Yeah, say more.
Because I always have something to say. What I like about where it is, I mean, it's not going to be a monolithic, brutalist, gray structure, or if at all possible. What I like about it is the balance of it. If it was just that and there was nothing to the west and to the north of it, then I think I'd really struggle with it. But I think it has to be at some point, and it sounds crazy, but at some point, like one, whether it's a corner or whatever, has to be pretty much central to most of the living. And I think if you move it further up, it's going to take a lot of people from the bottom, lower left area. I think it's close enough. Yeah, and I think that seems just like I'm going from the sales side of thing and why people want to live here. If we're bringing it in and we're looking at these, you know, a track on top and meeting rooms, and you can have barbecues, you can have anything on this, plus the space in the middle, it'd be less. I think it has to be in the middle of it. I don't know.
I mean, it would be it sounds like more central for everyone.
Yeah,
Right.
and I guess another thing to take into consideration is the hydro corridor. We're gonna be able to park a significant amount of surface parking in there. So the transit hub serves potentially a demographic on the site that isn't immediately adjacent the hydro corridor, right? Like if you're at this end, do you have to walk? You know, how far do you have to walk? It is like a 5-minute walk from one end of the site to the other. Like this is like,
Okay.
SLA sort of brought it up. It's like walking
It's true.
from one end of a Walmart parking lot to the front door.
Yeah.
So it,
I think we have
It's
to,
doable.
I think we have to talk about that, like Catalyst, when we were at our meeting at Catalyst. Right now, I was there yesterday. Myovision has 2,000 people in town from all over the world. And you have to, and you add in snowpile, everything. You have to walk a long way to get a spot. And I think we're used to it at the mall. We're used to it at university. We're used to it at other places. We're not used to it at home. And I think we have to normalize this.
do you drive the south?
No.
What's up with the facade?
Nobody's driving the facade. Bill does. Yeah, so I think we tell the guy that it's just not one of our cars. It's great though. On the roads.
Yeah. It's a gray Passat. I thought it was you at first and I was gonna tell you to move and then.
Oh, that's me. I was thinking of another car. Is it? a problem?
Like, I know he was a Volkswagen. So on top of it.
Can't get that.
Okay.
Say so.
Okay, see you, Jeff. I knew he drove a Volkswagen, but I thought it was a different color. Yes. I don't know how it would fit, but I wonder about putting it like down in this kind of an area,
Okay.
because I feel like, especially if we're putting housing along that one side of it, then it would be really nice for those people, especially if they're kind of backed up against a parking garage, to be able to see like the wetland. Like that might be a nicer thing to look at. Like, I mean, it's probably
these people?
Yes.
Jenna? Okay.
Yeah, because then it kind of like, I guess, because the commercial space down there would be really nice against the wetland as well.
Yeah.
But I also just
Yeah,
think
we have
like it
commercial
kind of,
Both sides.
yeah, with the homes up here,
Yeah.
it like kind of industrializes it a little bit. Like, I don't imagine that's going to be, of the houses on the lot, that those will be the first pick. But if they come with a really nice view of
And
nature,
effective,
it's
yeah.
a fair trade-off to being built into the side of a parking garage.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, my one counterpoint to that is we wouldn't want to create a big wall along that quadrant of the wetland. Because thinking about the bio corridor and our stormwater infrastructure, like that's right now how it's shown, we're kind of coming in as per that navy blue line. So if we orient whatever this is, like a 600-meter long building, you're basically blocking that off entirely.
Yeah.
Can you put the pass-through underneath this bridge?
Potentially, but we
This,
do
I guess.
envision like, if this is commercial at grade,
Mhm.
that it will be very active with foot traffic. So do we really want our bio corridor? Like Rasmus would probably say no. He would probably say that's gonna be a conflict.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Because I think if you still had it in the original alignment, you could still have these looking out onto the wetland without blocking the rest of the site. Because you're almost, in a sense, you are almost giving a premium to these units and locking out the rest of the units from seeing that wetland, because this is going to be a very large structure.
This I was just thinking about yesterday. This is if it's sort of in a similar position, but it's pulled back from the wetland so we can get residential clustered on that interface. So it just pulls the right of way up a bit higher, but we'll still be able to line it on both sides with active uses. But I think that this is kind of cool because then it creates at the plaza or the heart activation on sort of like 3, almost 4 sides of that rather than the previous iteration. This was just something I was thinking, but to kind of address that concern that the parking structure would take up that prime real estate. You good, Jeff? Okay, good.
No, it's a question. One of the renderings had residential attached to it. Is this the one that had the?
Yep, Yep.
Okay,
yep, it has the res.
got it. Okay.
So I want to put up some reference imagery too, maybe. So I have this image. Melissa, you could speak to this too. The idea of the interactive facade. So this one is like kinetic, so it reacts to the wind and it has movement. And then this one is actually a daily to le jour project. Melissa, do you think that maybe something like this, where the ground plane and how people interact with it could potentially activate maybe the facade of the parking hub?
Yeah, that's why I put some references in the chat, or I can share screen.
Okay.
This was mainly for activating a ground plane. People, it's like a fun game that we created where you step on a dot, you change the color, but from there we played with all sorts of rules. But if you look at Block Jam, the third one, this one was a visual sequencer, so it's like a musical instrument that was created. Like it's one of our first projects at Daily Tous les Jours. You would actually call in a number because intelligent phones were not the norm, but it becomes a play facade. But I think today, I wonder. I mean, I wonder if it can all. We can also activate it, like if there's a giant screen for movies for the community to share a little bit. What you see here is a sequencer, so people would create music together. It was during a music festival, an electronic music festival, so we wanted to bring the magic out in the street. But maybe we can activate it with. Let's see what's the relevant thing to play together in that particular neighborhood. But there's a magic that can, yeah, transforming it into a magical thing, and also how it can evolve. The other example from, you'll see here, the Shaker 8 is the project I was telling you about, more about getting to your spot, rain or shine.
Scott is talking very loud. Sorry.
That's
I
okay.
can hear him from across the room.
I'm
These are her
grateful to be with you,
parasails.
even if I can't in person.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, making commuting delightful. And if you click on the Work AC example, that is actually a parking lot in Miami. They have so many above ground parking lots. And this one, they made the skin a museum. So they call it the museum garage. And of course, there's like play structures, there's a slide, there are gallery spaces. But I thought
Ooh, I
that
love the
I
mug.
really like the green direction you're giving to the parking space, like opportunities for gardening and for growing food, maybe. But this one is really, I think, very interesting in how it uses, kind of makes the skin of the facade just a little bit thicker to activate it and bring play.
Cool.
Bookstore.
Why not? If I can make a comment, a lot of these parking structures, they don't show a lot of cars. And I think
Yeah.
we're still in this weird world where parking is going to be very important to a lot of people. And I think any images, it's almost like when they were creating the LRT here, the first images of down King Street, it was beautiful. It was this quiet train. There were no overhead. There were no street lights. There were no, it was like, and someone was Hamilton, I was talking, I said, just, it doesn't look anything like that at the end. And you have to be careful of that. Or restaurants that show pictures of restaurants that they're empty. I go, it doesn't look like that.
Yeah.
But I believe that this parking structure for a first little while, because people still think they will need a car,
Yeah.
it's gonna be full of cars. So I think when you show that space and you have discos and stuff like that going on in the space, I don't think there's gonna be room for that
Yeah.
because there's gonna be cars. So I think we have to remember that, like not sell something that
Yes.
isn't on the roof, yes,
The roof, yes, and the ground plane,
in the
yes.
ground plane, yes,
Yeah,
but make
yeah.
sure we're not,
Everything in between.
we're not,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and like if there's,
Because we don't want to make this thing like 8 stories to get the parking count we
Right.
need. Like, this
Yeah.
is 4, what we're showing.
I
and
do believe that the museum garage is like a 4 to 8 feet space that they added, but yeah, it's a lot of cars that can fit in that area. So maybe not the best practical
Okay,
example.
so it is efficient there in that
You
sense.
have to consider the weather too, because Miami's not getting snow.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's another thing. Yeah,
True.
I'll talk.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like we put a roof on this thing, sorry, Jeff. For the purpose of snow, but also to give, like Scott was very concerned about maintenance based on other parking garages he's done.
Mhm.
That he,
Mhm.
like, this is gonna be open air, it's not gonna be heated, so there will be snow collection on top. If we put a roof, that helps, but then that also provides more real estate for activation engagement. So, yeah, I think the roof makes sense.
Yep.
I like the walking park idea.
Absolutely.
We'll turn it into a roller skating rink.
That would, yeah, did you go to the Uptown where they converted the parkade? That was cool, yeah. It was, yes. Okay, guys, I'm gonna go rally the troops. Maybe who wants to relay this feedback?
Not me. I don't, I have.
I wrote a
No, there's
couple
no
notes.
logical, you're doing it. I know you're not supposed to be.
I
the
wrote
one
a
to.
couple
You're,
notes.
you're gonna do it because.
I'm not
I
doing
can't
it.
eloquently put anything together.
I need to take this input back.
Well,
So,
it'll be easier if you take your own input back. You're speaking on behalf. I gotta go move my other car. I'm not afraid to talk. I just know what the hell I'm talking.
I
You
mean,
got this.
okay. Well, there can also be multiple people that do
We'll
it.
chime in if
Okay.
we need to.
No. Or Melissa can do it. Okay, I'm gonna go.
Yes, Melissa will do it.
Melissa will do what?
You're gonna present on behalf of our group, Melissa.
All right.
You're our spokesperson.
Bring it on. I can be the voice from the TV. There was one thing I'll be not good at summarizes what you were talking about, the placement on the plan. I couldn't see very well. I could understand that there were dynamics of proximity and the way you were excluding zones as you were deciding where the transit hub was, but
We'll
maybe,
put that
yeah.
image up on, we'll put that image up on the screen when it's time to present, and you'll
Cool.
just see it's central focus, and the intent would be nothing is more than, I don't know, 300 meters away, whatever, I don't know, even to a corner. It may not to be your car, but I think you have to be able to see it to not get discouraged by the distance away from it.
Okay.
Give you a blanket. So for Christmas, I received an UGG, you know what UGG shoes are? An UGG blanket.
Yeah.
For my kids. It's magical. It's just saying, for Christmas, I got an UGG blanket for my kids for Christmas.
Never heard of such a thing. Okay.
Life changing. Because I wake up in the morning wondering when I can get back to that blanket.
Wow.
And it's crazy and it's so funny, but so I just ordered Amazon because I was telling her about how cozy, and I said, that's gonna be my gift to her for letting us into this space, but I've gifted 4 people with just a really cool, so I bought my wife one because we were fighting over it.
Yeah.
Get your own blanket.
So it sounds crazy, but it's not like this, like with this material,
Yeah.
but I can't even explain it. It's kind of like not weighted,
No.
but just enough.
That sounds lovely.
This winter's been perfect. Right?
Okay, so what did you decide? Are any other ideas?
Oh, no,
Melissa?
Melissa I don't think this image up. Can you put this one back up? Or she could, I don't know if she saw it or not.
She could see it when you were talking about the placement.
Oh, we were talking about the placement. So, yeah, we had the
Yeah.
2 options here where it was above and below. So this one above the right of way, and then we just flipped it
We talked about.
below. And this is, Scott was sort of leaning more towards this direction. But then yesterday I was thinking, what if we raise the right of way, peel it back further so we can actually get a layer of residential clustering between the transit hub and the wetland? So that might work too. And then it's still central and it's still like sort of creates a clustered, like we want to create points of critical mass around the site, and this would be one, you know?
Would this layout cause problems from a firefighting perspective, like fire truck access?
So this has a road here, Andre. So
Okay.
that would be our 15, but it would be across the eco corridor. So we'd have to like narrow it up there to get to our 15. But yeah, that's what this line is here. I'm thinking the fire truck would come in and then reverse back to the right of way 'cause it's less than 90 meters. But yes, these are things we need to think about is
Does the other one
our
allow it?
access.
Does the other?
Yeah, they all do. Yeah.
Yeah, is there anyone that's better?
I mean, yeah, like the first one is obviously from a firefighting standpoint because it's like right off and there isn't any residential in behind that the fire truck would need to service.
Got it.
So that's another layer to consider too.
Yes. I was driving this morning and just like Amazon changes everything.
Yeah.
And I was on our street, which is, I live on Gildner Street, very narrow. And this was yesterday afternoon. There were 3 Amazon vans on the street. But you can't even get one car like down our street right now. And it's just weird. It's because there's so much snow, right? On a good day, it's narrow. On a snow day, it's horrid, but they just play by their own rules.
Yeah.
They just park wherever the hell they can because that's how it works. And it's changed the dynamic of movement around every community right now.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just laugh going, like, I get it. You're making a living. Someone on Regina Street today, you can't do that, but you're gonna do it, right? So it's just,
You gotta do.
you don't want to create anger.
No.
Development that's supposed to go in between John and Alan on parks.
Yes.
Mhm.
Every time they talk about that, I'm like, okay, but where is the delivery truck supposed to pull in? And I'm like, I don't really care, like, take a unit out to be able to put something for them to pull up on, but otherwise they're just gonna park on the street.
Yeah.
And it's a fairly busy street to start with.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't care about houses going in there.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, we need them, but like, they park on the street there now and you can't get around them. So like, if you put 60 more houses in that one spot,
Yeah.
We need drone delivery. Period.
that'd be excellent.
Okay.
My dog would.
I'm gonna do a big whistle.
Damn. Winter.
It's tricky things. Because I understand why we need a parking garage. Like, as a private deal, I don't really work with options.
Yeah.
That balance of makes it good and interesting and also feel safe to somebody my size
gotta be.
walking around.
It's gotta be motion activated, but it's gotta be lots of things, right?
Still no changes to the behavior yesterday. I just didn't know if they carry over to your computer, but it looks like they did. I just checked it quickly, so we hand that to our second speaker.
So does everybody here is always
No.
like you're going to the wine party?
Yeah, but the latest thing about me is, nobody asked me to dress like this.
I don't think it's, I love it.
Yeah.
I thought,
Super nice.
oh, you should see Anna on a regular day. And I'm like, she looks like a million bucks.
I bet she does.
I'm consulting.
It's a bit pressurous on your budget for clothing.
Absolutely, yes.
It's a bit.
Maybe there's a Chipuni Simone allowance. We should get ADA wardrobe.
Thank you.
For the people that aren't working.
And it's unique.
Okay, it's very unique. Just coming in now, there's a lot going on. But I like it. It's an alternative. It's an alternative.
I think it's the answer. I'm gonna go one further than alternative. We've been on this for 2 years.
Good.
And I've heard nothing that comes close to Bill Blue. Without, funding. Right? A lot.
Is this being done anywhere else, this concept?
It's the pilot.
This is?
We're gonna take it across the country.
Oh, that's awesome. That's the way to do it. If it's the right time. Right? That's what I always
It's
say.
a critical time, right? We can't wait any longer.
It's presented Halifax.
No, it's great.
And they're booming.
Okay.
No, I'm glad Scott asked me to be a part of this.
Yeah, it added such a relevant layer to, yeah, and set the stage beautifully. And I've never been a part of a smudging
No.
ceremony before. No,
Amazing.
it was awesome. Thank you.
First time. I've never been part of this.
Most of
Most
the
of the
time.
time,
Yeah,
not a week.
pretty eclectic mix.
Maybe on a high school paper, a thesis, saying, I'll try something weird.
It is very much like a studio project from school, come to life. Yeah. So thanks.
Yep.
Been busy.
I've been busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since we met, yeah, been kind of busy. I saw Nancy a couple of months ago.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we brought all the police officers, 70 of them, out to two of our sites and we're working with them. It was cool that she showed up.
You involved in anything?
No. Kevin George is one of my buddies. He works for us.
Melissa,
My English.
you're there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so
You can hear me?
I'm sure you
So I do a lot
more
of stuff.
ideas and thoughts to share on this, and we are gonna have, we haven't scheduled the next workshop yet, but it does feel like that's
can only
gonna
be so
be,
many
where we start to bring things
Exactly.
together and layer in
No,
the
and I think
public
the
realm
biggest
and
thing that-
activation
Just
piece.
look up the land trust.
So, yeah, if you have just any thoughts coming out of today
Yeah.
to share,
Do you have a site in Guelph?
That's what
don't
I-
hesitate to
Yeah. there's
to
a lot
reach
of
out and
controversy about that.
keep the conversation going after today.
That's
Yeah.
what we did.
Totally.
We did a land management
Totally.
plan and they
And,
accepted it.
and maybe we
Class
can
5
plan
to
a smaller
5, but then
regroup with you and Scott after this.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe align a few thoughts and.
No, but.
yeah, we have, working sessions once a week, like SLA, CS and ABA, and I think it's probably a good idea.
I'm not gonna say anything.
Like,
It's
in this,
you know,
kind of,
I'm gonna get
study,
either this way or I'm gonna get hit back.
good idea.
Yeah, these things are.
I missed what you just said though. There's I think the microphone is more general right
Oh,
now.
I know.
I'm
We're
getting
doing
a lot
good.
of everything. You have the.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
This is
Yeah.
much better? Okay.
Yes.
I was just
What was
saying,
the last thing you said about that
Tuesdays.
you meet once a week? Yeah.
Yeah, we will connect after this. Okay.
Sure. But it's much better with the microphone, or else I was hearing a lot of people around talking at the
Yeah,
same
I
level as
know.
you. So I'm relying on my ears capacity to focus on
Yeah, I
sound.
know. That's the problem with
It's
a big
okay.
open space like this, is you're hearing everybody at once. There's a lot of
Mhm.
ideas floating around the room right now.
No, and it's what's great about big open spaces.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah.
Actually, they don't want to see.
Part of it, they've been hammering on us for a couple of years. Like 15, 17.
That's a lot of reason.
Yeah, my partner's skiing, right? So they have everybody from different sectors that they're bringing in to talk about,
Yeah.
right?
It's funny how sometimes there is work happening and you're not tapped into the right work. And it's actually, it's just flowing.
Yeah. It's also involved,
Yeah,
right? We're in it,
yeah,
just don't know it.
yeah. Yeah, I remember my dad just not really being his climate change discussions, or at least let's just say we're on the opposite side of the discussion.
Right.
That, I just don't understand how you do it so fast. Bill deal with people. In 1995, I said, a high school project.
Right?
1991.
Yeah.
By that time, things happen to me. Too fast.
So,
I think
who is speaking?
say it's only too.
Okay, amazing. Okay. Melissa, I've been told that you're speaking on our behalf. You're going to
Yes.
summarize? That's difficult.
Please, feel free to add on.
No,
All right.
it's all you. It's all you. I can't
Okay.
wait. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for
So
doing
will you
that.
be great. Can you move images to support what I'll be saying, or we're just talking?
Sure. Yeah, I can do that. Great.
Okay, great. Thanks. Thanks for your help, Ashley. Is the moment now?
Or you can share screen if you'd like.
Sure. But you
Whatever is
have the
easier.
plan.
I
Yeah,
have them open,
let's see.
but
You have them open, I saw. Up, I have them open now
Oh
too.
yeah, because if you want to like look at the plan or something, I can. Yeah, I'll pull it up for
Yeah,
you.
maybe you. Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. All right, everybody. Rasmus is taking the stage.
Okay. So we we thought we were doing the exercise of the sliders, but we didn't manage to do more than one of them because I asked a question because I felt there was so much one-way communication. So we all chipped in with the very basic question: is this even possible? Because we are quite ambitious here, right? There, it's beautiful. I honestly cried when I talked about this project to Ken Greenberg. I don't know why, but I met him yesterday, and I don't want to start getting emotional again. But so we asked that question. So I'm just going to read some of the statements because I think actually they're quite important to remember. The first conclusion is that we are ambitious. Let's all remind us about that. But there's also the question of how does the unconventional process that we are doing become successful in a very conventional market? We didn't make all of the answers, that's up to you, but I think that's a really good question. Then we also said that, on the other hand, we are perhaps or the only alternative to the system. But then another person said that, well, we don't know if we will be capable of making it work. But if anyone would be capable of making this work, it's us. I love that one a lot. And if we don't try, we will for sure never learn. So I think that was also a very strong one. And then that we have to make a balance in this project. This is going to be a balance about space. And how can we find places to optimize? So we discussed a lot about optimizing sharing, active mobility, and the social spine, for instance, the parking as we just saw. But the big question that I really also loved was, now we are friends. We are in the most stunning place I've seen in a long time. We are having a good day. But when it gets complicated and the Excel spread doesn't work out, who keeps us accountable? Who makes the decision? We can't sit here, all the 31 of us. I'm going to fight for my thing. You're going to fight for one thing. So who's driving the bus? I'm not suggesting it's me, just for the record. But I think that was some quite valuable discussion, because who is in reality prioritizing within the set of values? And I try to ask what is the non-negotiable? And that's the 1,000 units that the city has promised. It seemed like as a trade-off for the land that was offered. So I think that's a good reminder sometimes after the turtles and the frogs and the flow of water and energies, to also think that we have 1,000 units that is non-negotiable. We also discussed, because our workshop topic was about the space, right? So we did touch on parking a lot and how the savings on parkings could also be transparent in the economic spreadsheet. That was wonderful. We thought maybe that could be a good thing, because you should maybe be awarded if you don't have a car. And then I made a note that I didn't share with the other ones. That's the power you have by writing the notes. Because I thought about the ambitions is this room is really, really crazy high, but you are not going to live in the community. You are not the community. So how do we actually make the community behave like all of us are standing here and saying, oh, and you will share everything and everything will be so loud. You don't drive a car, blah, 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 blah. Who's going to do that? So it made me think about that. Is there a sheriff? Or that's a bad word in these days. I should not say sheriff. Is there a community leader? Is there a community leadership? Maybe it's a leadership with kids and elderly and all age group. It can be how we make it, but how do we make sure that the community, because they are the ones that will make this a success. It's not us. When we have built it, we can't control and walk around and say to the people how to behave. So it made me think about that. I don't know what the answer is, but I think it's relevant. And then for the more pragmatic things, we talked about cars. And another fact that was a bit hard for me, a guy who doesn't own a car and proudly tells it every time I have a chance. The Waterloo reality is that 94% commute daily in a privately owned vehicle. What the fuck? I mean, so that's also something I think it's okay to consider in our planning. So I made a heart around car sharing priority, about public transport, about unloading your car where it's most convenient, meaning next to the shopping store, so you can actually grab your groceries, or that thinking about winter convenience and dropping up kids with groceries. Maybe it's okay to drop off your family at your house, but you can't park there, right? It doesn't need to be so compromising not to have that private parking lot in front of your house. And I think I will stop with that. So that's what we thought about.
Thank you, Smith.
As a quick follow-up, we have started with Sean's business partner. But we started to look at participatory budgeting, community framework, the idea of how you put the commonality of both exterior and interior into a community cooperative. How might we embed within the condominium documentation a framework of participatory requirements, if you want to talk about sort of the policing aspect of it, and then through Jose and Paul, how we might embed the narrative of the community as that level of participation, because you're right, the community will become what it becomes. And so how do we cue it? How do we market it and value it? How do we design it? How do we cue it? How do we have enforceability? And then how do we transfer that ownership over? And what's the participatory governance structure of that? What's the legal framework of that? So we've been working on all of those things in behind the scenes already from an Ontario framework to be able to
maybe include some like nature ranges or something.
Yeah. No, but I think that's how we set up the project narrative, right? Like, and so the all value, what does that mean? How are those decisions made? What is the governing structure? What are the tools of that governing structure? What's the value proposition that they agree to adhere to? Does it have any teeth? So yeah, we're asking those questions and trying to get through designing that system concurrent with the physical design aspect. And so that they both converge in a very authentic way.
You know what's interesting, Rasmus? Have you ever been to Celebration in Florida? So it's a community that was built very much along the same premise that we're talking about, right? It's privatized everything, privatized the garbage pickup, privatized so many things. So, and they have a center spine. But when you go on the streets of all the residential homes, there's no activity. It's like Deadsville. And then you go into this spine it too is Deadsville, because people just are not accustomed to coming in. So to just have a centralized area is really no different than, trying to spread a little more of that corner store, right at the end of my street. I don't have to go to the Spine. I can get over here. Or the park. I don't have to go to the main park. I've got a smaller park here. And it's so important that it's not so segregated. And a perfect example is going to this community. If you're ever in Florida, go to Celebratory. There's nothing celebratory about it. It's interesting, people thought it was gonna be this, very, animated place. It's quite the opposite. So we have to be very mindful on what we do and make sure that there is always play and interaction where it's accessible and not that you have to go quite a ways for it. So marketing is a key, but then that marketing has to support what we're actually doing. Great.
Sorry, it's a question, and I love that you brought up like the community share, because that's something that's always been in the back of my mind, and it's brought up at the first workshop. It's how do we not get sort of touch with what people sort of really want? So at what point do we bring them in? Do we do a focus group? Do we survey them? Do we show them what we're doing here? It gets so far that it's hard to like go back, like, because we're not going to be living there. It's easy for us to say all these things, but at what point does that happen?
Yeah, can I?
So just, guys, being cognizant of time, I'm just thinking, like, we only have 15 minutes left. We have 3 groups to go through and a schedule. So could we do 5 minutes per each group and then maybe circle back for comments at the end?
Are you pointing at me because I'm up next?
Yeah. Who from your group is gonna speak?
I just took the notes, so same thing, the notes are here. But yeah, you're hitting on the theme that we got to right away, which is these dispersed mini moments of play, not just centralized area, but then both are needed. We need an element of congregation that's upscale, the neighborhood can get together. So how do you balance both of those things, right? A larger area of congregation, but not being the wall around that you act a certain way when I'm here, and the minute I leave here, I act a completely different way, right? And then, so we talked through that. We actually kind of like the transit hub in the heart as opposed to the periphery. We really talked about places for kids to gather. How do we take a lens? This is a community design primarily for young families. So how do we put the kids first in that design? Where do teenagers like to hang out on the street? How is that welcoming and comfortable? Just kind of putting that lens through. These interjections of places to linger. So we didn't mind the walk home as long as the walk home wasn't a direct path. And so do you have moments both outside and inside to meet neighbors, to linger? What are the moments between buildings? How is that? And that's, I think, the celebration difference is it's easy when you drive in your car to your garage, open your garage, go inside. You never have to go outside and the street looks like that. How do we force through inconvenience a very
There's a party point. It's,
but I think it's still the residence is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
So that, the community kiosk type approach, was quite interesting. We talked a little bit about parking noise and activity, and versus community congregation. So if you're congregating where the parking garage is, what is that interaction like if the parking garage is noisy? Programming dollars came up. So again, how do you encourage the longevity if you're just building utility once, but you're not able to then program it either organizationally or structurally and also fund that? How does the community participate through a shared contribution to a shared existence to have programming dollars that sustain it? Because oftentimes we build things and it falls down. This idea of multi-purpose spaces, I've got a whole bunch of notes on that, but the basic idea is, you go to the bakery in the morning and then it closes at noon and then nothing happens in the bakery to the end of the day. So how do we view the lens of these shared spaces to actually be curated service and retail that has a communal shared experience so that it has different attributes in different times of the day? And so that we're taking full advantage of space as opposed to sort of defined hours for defined uses.
What's really interesting? Pioneer Village. Who's been to Pioneer Village? Everybody's been to Pioneer Village? Yeah. So when you look at Pioneer Village, right, and you look at what their social spaces were all about, it was really about necessity, right? You have blacksmiths, you have woodworkers, you have knitters, it was all about sharing a craft. And the community actually participated in it. We forgot to bring all that back.
Yeah.
And you look around downtown Toronto, you have knitting establishments that are opening up. You have workshop establishments that are working up. Instead of always thinking of retail, like a coffee shop or a dress shop, maybe we should be thinking and bringing back the craftsmanship, like pottery places where you can buy pottery, you can also practice pottery.
Yeah.
Right, and that's all social, right?
Yeah, and that was my next point, which is co-working, like makerspace, woodworking, all of those introductions. And then how do we layer that into a junk playground? Where is she? Hey now, hi, there you go. But how do we bring that forward to allow a junk playground? For those that don't know, is a little bit of adult supervision so the kids don't hit themselves with hammers. But I think if we trust them, they won't. But putting tools out and allowing, it's like when you grew up, you had a garage. At least I did. And in the garage, you just did things. How do you have this? But if you grew up in an apartment building or some mid-rise structure, you don't have that same experience. So how do you create those moments in the community that both for adults, but then also for the kids, without a paywall in front of it or some level of I pay to learn how to make pottery. Why don't we just put a pottery wheel that's half broken in the park and see what happens, right? So different things like that. Community gardens, of course, grocery, we talked about a little bit. The idea there was you're going to have to prioritize 30 to 40,000 feet. You can make an infinite list of what we all want and what's that priority. So is distributed food important? Yes. To what scale versus conventional grocery? And then if it's conventional grocery, do you have drop off ability versus a 25,000 square foot neighborhood grocery or whatever it might be, right? So how do you find the right balance between artisanal food that has an offering and perhaps something that needs to be more than that? Can more than that not maybe exist within the community if it's competing with other space needs? Indoor play for winter came up. We're going to try to encourage seasonality. And then I've saved, what else have I got here? Okay. And then just opportunities to engage with the broader community, but then also to not deter the neighborhood feel of it. So like what balance is there? So you want to have your hamlet, but you don't want to build a wall around your hamlet, but you don't want to hold a 10,000 person concert for the entire city in your hamlet, right? So it's where do you find the balance within the mix of that? And then last but not least, Paul wants a hill, because if we have a hill, everybody just goes to the hill and plays in the hill. And so we're not going to suggest that we strip all the existing habitat and build a topsoil hill like every other developer would do. But there's still the opportunity. Okay, that was sort of a summary of our notes.
Okay, for our group 3 unstructured parking, we're gonna turn it over to Melissa, who's gonna summarize for us.
I'm gonna get it 4 minutes. The conversation started with how the parking lot, the transit hub was going to be in this larger ecosystem that was going to be so amazing that you don't even care that you have to put your car there. But further looking into it, how do we turn this more like it will still become part of a routine, part of your everyday? So how can it be an opportunity, a highlight, a star in the fiction that we're writing together? So there's ease facilitating access, how it can connect to the broader experience. We looked at different locations. I don't know if you want to show some images now, Ashley. There were 2 base propositions. One that's really nice for fire management. Another one that is still like, it's very central. So it kind of makes you go through the heart of the neighborhood and accelerates your chances of meeting a neighbor. We did talk about grocery bags, but also getting help with grocery bags and how this can be an opportunity to connect you to see neighbors every day. Compared to other types of urban arrangements where you're more face-to-face, you can check in daily, and this is the opportunity of connecting it this way. There was this new proposition where it's more that you can see it, but you're not discouraged by how far from it because it's more intertwined with residential units. I don't know if you want to add something else here, Ashley, that I'm not translating correctly.
Yeah, no, this was like an idea I had last night, so I just got it down. But basically, we had a critique where if the parking structure was south of the right-of-way, then it's like squeezed up against the wetland, and up the interface with the wetland is
one of the most beautiful opportunities on the site. So does it really deserve to be occupied 3/4 by a parking structure? So if we pull the municipal right of way up a bit, then that gives us opportunity to add a second layer. We just have to deal with the fire route access to the residential, but it allows us to keep the hub central, but then cluster around that and then line the wetland with residential uses. So there might be something here worth exploring.
And then we talked about how to program it. And this is an example of a piece we did that works with light that transforms spaces at night. It did transform a parking lot during the Super Bowl back in 2018. This is the game where you step on a dot and change the color, and it was made to make people play. All ages. And this is working on the ground plane, but how can we work on the vertical plane? I pulled out another example of when we transformed a facade in Montreal with a musical sequencer during an electronic music festival. That was also like, how can we make a solid wall into a play opportunities? And there are many, many ways. I like your hill, Paul. I think we can also make a climbing wall, perhaps. There are many ways to turn this into a vibrant place for all, night and day, snow or rain. We talked about access too. I think when I see the grocery bags, I do believe that we need to put some design school in making a signature trolley system to ease that part of having to park your car far away, but having like the help into making it more fun and accessible, and into making those transit moments delightful. This is our shade parade, those giant parasols on rails that we created. That were presented in Montreal, but were made for a particularly long, monotonous sidewalk in the US. And having the shade oversized created these shared moments where you can share the shade with someone, but also they're gliding. So it's really fun, and you feel like a kid again, but actually you're going from A to B and you even forgot about that. And maybe a last example of probably the most extravagant car park from work I see, it's very Miami, but it created like from the skin, from the taking a few feet from the skin of the parking garage, they transformed it into a museum garage where they added play spaces, galleries, books, libraries, and kind of made a civic layer to a parking garage. This is very Miami, but thinking about kids and teens maybe too. I love how we can bring back the space that a garage has had for many of us who had a garage. So could there also be like, yes, those extra layers of civic spaces where we share stuff. I do wonder what Taran Mangar, that wrote the beautiful letter, would say about how she would use the car space and what she's willing to bargain against it. And I think this is it. Am I missing on anything else?
No, I think that's great. Group? Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, Melissa.
Thank you.
Okay. Our fourth and final group, who's representing?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks.
Yeah. So a lot of the conversation was around storage in the hub, so whether in the unit itself, off,
maybe maybe in the parking garage, or if there's opportunity to do more of a communal within like the tripod, outside, covered, heated, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of conversation around the storage. We looked at, maybe getting rid of some of the desk space and turning that into more of the storage opportunities, some dead space. Again, maybe looking at more of this. Yeah. 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 Right. Yeah.
Shared between 6 other units.
Yeah.
Or your neighbors within your typology.
Right. And then the millwork. So maybe not so much fixed millwork, something that can be a little bit more flexible, especially as children grow, or, if somebody doesn't have a child, using that room as a desk as an office, it'd be hard if there were, your nightstands fixed in there if you're not going to use it as a bedroom. So just a little bit more flexibility around the millwork.
But the millwork was really more focused in the bedroom.
Yes.
It was really, you know, if people want to position their beds in a separate way. For example, twin beds to bunk beds. Bunk beds are
Mhm.
usually the longer side against the wall. Twin beds are usually the shorter side against the wall. So maybe we relook at the fixed millwork in the in the bedroom, excluding the
Master,
closet space. if
yeah,
you
in the
will.
master, yeah,
Yeah.
or the primary bedroom. Also in the kitchen, we talked about the island versus the dining room table. Preference was to keep the dining room table. Some of the layouts didn't really lend a lot of space for like prep area, so it'd be hard to eat while you're prepping and all that kind of good stuff. So, and then also with the cheater washrooms, the preference was to not have a cheater. So you get some additional wall space on either side. Also, preference was to have a double sink in the kitchen and microwave was identified as a need. Also swing doors versus sliding for the interior doors. Kids play space came up quite a bit as well. And also positioning some of the rooms to have more of the secondary rooms more in the back and have the primary more around the living space. Just if you have a child sleeping, more of the noise and stuff, it's kind of, yeah, it's harder to hear in the back. So I think that's about it. Anything else? Team? Group?
I think overall, what we were basically saying is, it's okay, my
Okay.
voice unfortunately is, I've never been told to that I'm not speaking loud enough. Yeah, but I think overall what we're saying is that when you don't have any physical, restrictions, you can maybe play a little bit more. In some areas where the children's area could be more in the background, it really compromises the suite. Although it makes a lot of sense. You don't want your kids closer to the social area, because if they're too close to the social area, chances are they're gonna wake up, right? Adults are usually
Up later.
up later and the kids are sleeping a lot earlier. So, but those were good, dialogues that we were having.
Yeah.
And also understanding the complete home compared to the conventional way of building, we have a lot more flexibility. So there was a lot of that conversation involved.
Excellent. Okay,
I
well,
do a quick wrap then?
yes,
Yeah.
we do have one more slide as part of the presentation here, Scott. Just upcoming milestones. Do you want me to just run through
Yeah.
in 2 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, so here we are, far left. I'll just stand up here. January 29th, we're at the design workshop. So we have our work cut out for us. As I said, we're going to be working on preparing the scheme for the next month. Working towards the February 27th submission for pre-consultation for the draft plan of subdivision. Just hold it. That won't be final. We have received confirmation that we can submit a red line addendum as things do change, which they inevitably will. There's going to be a period of city review where they'll give us their comments, and then we'll want to integrate that into the scheme before we formally submit for draft plan of subdivision and our hydro compatibility submission because of the hydro corridor cutting through our site. That's mid-April. Okay. So registration will be later than August 26th likely. But the idea is we need to work towards that tender site works in September of this year. So then by March 2027, we can complete that work, and that's related to the half funding. So then in parallel process with these formal approvals, detailed engineering, Andre is working hard at that and addressing the conditions affiliated with draft plan. Those conditions will come to our desk as a result of the city's feedback, and then the marketing narrative and ongoing site-wide design development. So we'll still be having these sessions, I imagine, in some sort of format. Maybe they're smaller, more intimate sessions. Maybe we do continue at this pace, but also like welcoming your feedback about, how these sessions have gone so far. And that's basically it in terms of upcoming milestones. So closing remarks over to Scott.
Okay, so thanks for participating today, Rasmus. I just wanted to answer the two questions. Where is he? That you kind of had in the room. So, number one, my answer on who we serve and what's absolute. I don't go to a unit metrics. I know we got Michelle and our city partner here, and I know we have obligations within legal agreements with the city, and the city has legal agreements with the federal government. And we have to serve Terran. We have to serve people. And we have to talk to those people and see what they want. So these are my truths in this project. And, we will get to the point where we exceed the density of people and all life on the site that we originally intended. And we're hoping that through that exercise, the city's been a tremendous partner so far. We will have good discussions with the city on what that means, and we will have adaptability within the plan to meet obligations that are imposed both federally and municipally. But the absolute of the project is great design for the people we serve and great design for the all life we serve, I should say. But I think that's the ongoing dialogue. And what we know is missing in the market is there's enough 1 and 2 bedroom product. Now, it's not to say this won't be a diverse neighborhood. Of course it will. But what we can't do is continue to compound a problem that we see in the market. When we started this journey, a 1 bedroom was almost 500,000 in Waterloo region. That same 1 bedroom now is in the low 300,000s. And there's still a lot of them that aren't moving. And it's because it's a type of housing that the market has accepted for rental and rejected for family ownership. There is not at the price a livable family-based unit in Canada, frankly. And so that's who we serve, and we'll continue to serve that as we respect the relationships we have, as we understand the legal frameworks that exist between them. But collectively, we've started this journey with the city serving the people. We will always serve the people first, and we'll figure out how we get there as we go. So that's number one. Number two, I'll leave you with a bit of optimism. Yes, ambition, intention, and values align to have a goal, but math never lies. And so if you want to get to the moon, you have to have the first things, but you have to do the second thing. And we've done it. And so I will tell you unequivocally, the math is tested and it is very much achievable. The financing structures, the delivery costs, and how that works. It hasn't been tested. Why? Because Clarence will tell you, greed. We sit in designing density that leads to economic profit, not people. So we forgot who we served. And as a result, we lost control over the math because we think the math is units. We think the math is small livable spaces. We think the math is those types of things. And so, I'll leave you all with 100% it's doable. We joked early on, Michelle, remember we said, it's like announcing we're going to the moon, but we already know how to get there, right? We just have to put the team together and do it. And I think, I'll leave you with we're not breaking ground that scares me from a math or financing point of view. And that's been my career. That's the lens I have to bring to this equation. Very much doable, very much achievable. And we're well on our way to showing the world that it can be done. How's that for an ending? Good. To our gracious hosts, this is our 4th time here with the team, I think. Anna, thank you so much for having us. This started with we should go to a boardroom somewhere, and Anna said, geez, if you're going to get inspirational ideas back, you should be in inspirational places. So she's been so gracious to offer us the Red Barn, her and her team. Thank you so much for hosting us again. We really appreciate it.
I do want to say is there's a pond and now it's covered by snow and we skate at that pond, but that pond has turtles. And those turtles are out here in the spring and they're laying their eggs. And I just want you to know, along with the turtles are the geese. And so we celebrate everything you advocate. And I thank you for that. So I just want you to know.
Okay.
Okay.
Work to be done.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Thanks for here. Nice.
Okay, cool. Thanks for hanging around and I'm certainly know.
Thanks. Okay, bye everyone. Bye Nana, bye Mike. Bye Ashley.
How are you? Would you like some title for you?